10 weeks ago, we introduced a series of church school experiences dealing with the future of the United Methodist Church post 2024. And we introduced the concept that we're a denomination of verbs, not nouns. The key to this understanding is the suffix ing, because when ing is added to a word, the word is often changed from a noun to a verb. And a verb describes action and behavior, a way of living. This is certainly the case as we consider the characteristics of the United Methodist Church beyond 2024 and our last verb in this journey together, and that's the verb of changing. A case can be made that if the previous 9 verbs we've used are considered, the inevitable result is changing. However, on the other hand, if the United Methodist Church as a denomination is reluctant to experience the church as always changing, the other characteristics that we have considered become impossible dreams rather than exciting possibilities. And whether the future is a part of impossible dreams or exciting possibilities has to do with whether or not we accept the characteristic of changing. Now, I've had the experience of 2 congregations which I would refer to as my home churches. They have both closed. In both cases, the characteristics of futuring, balancing, reasoning, partnering, delegating, sending, neighboring, welcoming, and including were ignored or tried and denied. And this ignoring and trying and denying spanned more than a generation. These congregations could not with integrity sing the hymn, "A Charge to Keep I Have," which includes the phrase in that second verse, and that is, "To serve the present age our calling to fulfill." To serve the present age our calling to fulfill was not the song that my home churches could sing with any sense of integrity. The last chapter of both of these congregations could be entitled "The Reluctance to Change." This reluctance to change guaranteed that those churches would be static, stable, a church of nouns, not verbs. Both of them were known for what they stood for, but not for what they did. They were known for what they stood for, but not for what they did. In the past 20 years, the United Methodist Church has been struggling with their identity. Often, the struggle has been whether, as a denomination, we would accept the inevitable consequence that to be faithful, to serve the present age, the church is called to celebrate change rather than crucify change. There are warnings that must be heeded when we consider changing as a component of our faithful future. One warning is that we're not invited to change for the sake of change. Changing is a component of discipleship because the world is changing. And to make disciples for the transformation of the world mandates change in strategies and tactics. Changing is to make the choice between relevance and irrelevance, not just to be different. We want to be relevant. Therefore, we're willing to have changing as a part of our future. Another warning is that changing is not abrupt and rapid. Change takes time and is more likely to be a developmental or incremental process rather than a disruptive or revolutionary event. Koyama, the author of the book 3 Mile an Hour God, describes why changing is so slow. Why? Because change occurs through the lives of human beings. That's what divine love is all about, incarnate in the flesh of human beings. And the pace that human beings walk is 3 miles an hour. So change is certain, it's not abrupt, it's not rapid, it's evolutionary and incremental, but certain. It's clear to me, as I have both participated in the life of local congregations and participated in the life of our denomination, that changing is an inevitable component of discipleship. The only question is, what will the pace of change be? But change is certain if we're going to serve our present age. A few years ago, at Grace United Methodist Church in Winfield, a question was asked why General Conference, the legislative arm of the church, met every 4 years to evaluate and make changes in the Book of Discipline. A person who asked this question held the opinion that this process of every 4 years looking at things and changing things was a waste of time and resources. I remember our dialogue, and I remember my response to that question was that the practice of the legislative arm of the church meeting every 4 years was to assure that our denomination will be relevant to the age in which we live, because to be out of date is to be irrelevant. In 2024, the General Conference revised the social principles. Why? To be relevant to 2024, because what was relevant in 2012 was often irrelevant now. Secondly, the General Conference took the language of exclusion, removed it from the Book of Discipline. Why? Because the world is changing, and using words of hurt and shame are intolerable in sharing the good news of God's agape love. In 2024, regions were created in the governance structure in the United Methodist Church. Why? Because the diversity which exists in the world must be accepted and affirmed, rather than one region in the world experiencing privilege and inherited power over another region. Now, to be sure, changing involves failure. Sometimes we fall short of being agents of agape love. But we must remember also to be sure refusing to change involves the risk of making failures permanently irrelevant. You see, changing is the exciting journey of faithfulness, which includes righting past failures of wrong. Yes, I'm convinced that if a person is uncomfortable with accepting changing as a component of discipleship, they're going to be uneasy in the United Methodist Church. For the United Methodist Church moving forward is committed to and celebrates the component of changing in our life together. We choose to celebrate change rather than crucify change. For your thought and conversation, what are your experiences of the refusal to change in the community of faith weakening and preventing the mission of making disciples for the transformation of the world? What changes have you experienced in the denomination or in the local congregation which have facilitated and enabled the mission of making disciples for the transformation of the world? And finally, what are your stories of the church refusing to change and in so doing becoming permanently irrelevant? Thanks for being a part of this journey, which will continue for one more week as we look at the package of the church moving forward.